probably mention Gateway to Honor a little bit. There's a title change there. And then Revolution I'll probably mention. Or not probably. I'll probably go through the whole card. Come on. If you are just joining us, thanks for tuning in. Brian, good morning. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Like I've mentioned before, we always go live a few minutes before we officially start just to give everyone a chance to jump on here. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, roughly. We're basically just going to be talking about the events over the weekend. Super Showdown from this past Thursday. There was a local Ring of Honor show called Gateway to Honor that we're going to touch on. And then AEW Revolution from Saturday night as well. So again, we're going to get rolling in about 2 minutes. If you're tuning in, thanks for joining us. We're going to get started here in about another minute. We always like to go live a few minutes before we officially start just to give you guys a chance to jump on. Like I mentioned in some of the group posts, if you have any thoughts on WWE Super Showdown, AEW Revolution from Saturday night, we're going to talk Gateway to Honor a little bit as well. Give us your thoughts and opinions and your hot takes on those events. We'll try to read as many comments as we can during the show. So, again, thanks for tuning in. We're going to get rolling in about another minute. Thanks again for everyone that's jumping on. We've had a few people jump on just in the last 10 or 15 seconds. We're going to get started in about, I'd give it 15 or 20 seconds. We like to start right at 9 a.m. And actually, it just hit 9 a.m. So here we go.
Promotional
Just kidding. you guys that always like to uh, join us before we officially begin, you get to see little fun outtakes like what just happened. So, kind of sounded like I was going to start off our show with an advertisement right off the bat, but nope, I just pressed the wrong soundbite button. So, that's what happens when you're live, and we are live. So, welcome to the Going Broadway podcast. I am Alex. Cole is here. Cole, what is happening?
Same old, same old. We got a lot to talk about today.
We do. Brandon Randall, good morning. Brian, thanks. I appreciate that. This is going to be entirely a recap show. Not every show that we do is going to be for everybody. So if you don't want to listen to a recap show, you may find a better way to spend your morning than listening to us. But hey, if you want to listen to us, you're more than welcome to stay. And we're going to start by, I guess, going through the unpleasantry, I guess I'll call it, that was Super Showdown. So we'll start off with that. Now, I've read a lot of people actually liked this card, in fact, so much that they thought that it was one of the better Saudi shows that they've had. I thought this was, from top to bottom, awful. Awful. And like I said, if you guys that are chiming in this morning, James Simon, good morning. Thomas Henderson, good morning. If you think differently, if you like the show, or again, we're going to be talking about Super Showdown, AEW Revolution. We're going to talk Gateway to Honor as well, so give us your thoughts and opinions on those. We're talking Super Showdown first. I told Cole before we started, we're not even going to go through this match by match because I just thought it was awful. I thought it was horrible. So awful that I even did an impromptu show, and unfortunately, somebody thought Cole was doing the impromptu show with me and spoiled the results. So there will be no more impromptu shows for that reason. I actually about went live while I was at Revolution through our podcast page. I'm just like, no, I don't want to do that because then someone might think Cole is with me and spoil it. So I didn't do that. However, I'm kind of getting off tangent here. I will say right off the bat, so I'm going to AEW Dynamite in April. I am going to try to go live, even if it's just for a couple minutes, just while I'm there. So Cole will not be with me. Don't spoil the results for him unless he's watching it live, which I don't know. Depends on his work schedule. So anyway, back to Super Showdown. So I didn't like this event at all. I just thought it was a money grab, just basically like any other Saudi show has been to this point. Cole, you've had a chance to watch it. What did you think from top to bottom?
Top to bottom, I think when you look at the card, I liked the card.
It looked good on paper.
You know what I mean? Like, I liked what the card looked like, but I also went in, I think, with the mindset knowing that it's a Saudi show. So I kind of knew, like, everything's going to kind of be played safe to the chest. Like, there's only going to be one or two major, like, shockers in a sense. So I don't want to say I was, like, totally shocked that they did what they did, but it was dry.
It was dry, and it was, I don't want to say, I felt like there were some timing issues, and I don't know if that was a purposeful thing, and I'll get into more details as far as what I mean by that as we go through this.
Part of the card didn't make sense to me because some of the matches just seemed like they weren't worthy of being on a pay-per-view, though, if that makes sense.
It did feel like a glorified Raw show.
Because I didn't watch the kickoff show, but I actually heard the Vikings Raiders versus the OC was one of the better matches of the night.
I didn't watch that either.
And that's what everyone kept talking about, like how it was such a great match, and I was like, it didn't even make the actual main card.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny about that is, so my wife went with me to AEW Revolution. And I kind of talked to her about just structure of shows and how she thought that it would make more sense to have the better matches towards the end of the card. So basically, like, whoever's booking it, whoever is supposed to be in the better matches would be towards the end of the card. And I had told her, you need to balance it out, because if you have if you've got one side of the card too top heavy, so to speak, then most people aren't going to be worried about the first half of the card, because if you've got all your lower to mid card matches at the beginning, that's when everyone's just going to be like, okay, well, these are going to be the ho-hum matches. I can go ahead and go to the concession, run to the bathroom, whatever. And I told her modern wrestling doesn't do it that way. In fact, older wrestling didn't even do it that way. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the house shows from back in the WWF days, you'd actually have Hulk Hogan, and he'd be champion, but he'd be wrestling on like the 4th, 5th match on the card on an 8-match card. And then the problem with that was, and I know I'm getting off tangent here, the problem with that would be you'd have everyone that would be leaving after that match. So you got to find a good way to balance it. And so that's why I think that matches like this OC and Viking Raiders match, it doesn't belong on a pre-show, because you want to start off with a good match, but start that off on your main card. Like, don't put that on the pre-show.
Right.
If you want a pre-show match, put Garza and
That Garza and Carrillo match could have been on the pre-show because it was good,
exactly. I mean,
but it meant nothing.
Right.
It was thrown on the card.
Exactly. And so Tim Purnell says best finishing move in the WWE today. That might be a good topic for another show. I don't know what the best finishing move right off the bat is. I'd have to think about that one. Again, that might be a good topic for another show. So then they have this, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Tuwake Mountain Trophy Gauntlet match. I think WWE expected more out of it, or whoever booked it expected more out of it, because they opened the card with it. I thought the in-ring work, the in-ring psychology. Now, granted, it's a gauntlet match, so it's going to have a little bit of a unique feel to it. But the last gauntlet match I remember is the one that put Kofi Kingston over as a big deal, and that eventually led to his title run. This was far, far, far inferior to that match. I just felt like it was a big cluster. And inevitably, Rey Mysterio gets attacked in the back by the OC, but then you see OC down on another camera shot. Undertaker comes out, makes this big reveal. He essentially, I don't want to use the term buried, and I know I said that before the show, but you have Undertaker come out, have him give AJ a choke slam, and then the pinfall, and it's like he doesn't even take his ring, he doesn't even take his hat or his jacket off, and it just feels, almost right off the bat, in my opinion, it's like, oh, so this is what this card's going to be. Again, this is before the Lesnar Ricochet match. This is before the Goldberg Fiend match. I just had a gut feeling. I'm just like, this is not going to be a good show. Like, they're going to put over these old part-time guys. Again, I swear to you, I thought this before we even got to that. Right whenever they ended this match, I'm thinking, the Saudi people have paid McMahon. They have said, well, we want these guys to win because you're on our turf. Make it happen. And they did. It built towards their WrestleMania match. I get it, but
the main problem I actually had with the whole thing was that when he chokeslammed him, he botched it.
Yeah, exactly.
And to both of them to be the veterans that they are, you spent 45 minutes coming down to the ring. Take an extra 2 minutes, pick that man back up, and re-chokeslam him. Hit him with the tombstone.
Yeah, do
last
something.
ride, redo it. You can't end a match where AJ Styles didn't even really get hurt at all. Like he didn't take a punch from anybody.
No,
you can't end the match on a botched choke slam to try to put Undertaker over. I don't think it was purposely done on either. It looked like he slipped out of his hand. But both of you guys being veterans, they should have known, hey, we need to redo that. Take an extra 2 minutes and
pull an audible, take the hat and the jacket off, give him a last ride or a tombstone, and at least make it feel as if
the trophy didn't even matter. He didn't even take the trophy with him.
Well, and what's funny about people on social media, they're just like, oh, he didn't take the trophy. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, So then what was the point of having this two-week mountain trophy in the first place? You could have just had a gauntlet match and been...
How much did that trophy cost them to make that mean nothing? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it had no meaning to it. I get the whole storyline purpose of it, but it just bothered me that... The thing that bothered me was the fact that they messed up the ending.
Agreed.
On a shock return. Like, every time they showed it, like, as a recap, they couldn't even show him actually choke slamming him. They just showed him pinning him.
Yep.
Because it looks that bad.
Yeah. 100% agree. The next match was The Miz and Morrison against The New Day.
Maybe match of the night?
Probably. I mean, by default, just because, again, I mean, I think that Meltzer has already put out his match ratings for this card. I think he might have given that a 3.5, and I think that was what the highest rating was.
It actually was a good match.
It was a decent match. Kofi did a nasty spot towards the end of the match where he does this leap over the top rope trust fall thing, but lands directly on the floor flat on his back. And I get that there's some padding, but man, that's going to knock the wind out of you. If you haven't seen it, go look. I mean, he does a leap off over the top, and Morrison completely moves out of the way and literally lands on his back, pancakes himself on his back on the floor. It was a nasty looking spot. Miz and Morrison get the win. They win the tag titles. They plug how it's been 10 years or however many they said it was since they last won tag titles together. And then they have the Garza Carrillo match.
Shouldn't have been on the card.
How many times has this match happened?
It should. I mean, they're great together, but it shouldn't have been on the card. There's no storyline really with it to the point that it should have been on a pay-per-view. And that's the problem I have with all that, is that it should not. I don't know if people know this. They didn't even do the Braun Strowman Shinsuke Nakamura match that was supposed to be on this card. They saved it for Elimination Chamber, and then you put this on there. I would have rather you not even put this on there and actually given some of the other matches a chance to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, give the other matches more time.
That was not worth. That hurt their storyline. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That bothered me a lot.
Yeah. And then you've got the Street Profits and Rollins and Murphy. I was surprised at how not, I don't want to say it was bad, but how not good this match was. It just felt it was thrown together. I mean, you've got 4 guys, 3 of them for sure, that are very talented in the ring. I mean, they're all talented, but Rollins and Murphy are, and then
Montez Ford.
Is it Ford? Is he the one that's good?
He's the leapfrog, frog splash.
Yeah.
Dawkins is just a little different of a wrestler than the other 3, but
yeah, they're all good. But I, in my opinion, I was shocked at how not good this match was. Murphy gets the pinfall. They retain the tag titles, and then we have the Ziggler Mansoor match.
this match is funny, bro.
Why does Dolph Ziggler still work for this company?
So here's what's funny about this whole match. First of all, you cannot have a guy who never wrestles ever. Just because he's in developmental or in NXT.
He's not even developmental. He just hangs out.
It's like, hey, we signed you for Saudi shows only. Like, the thing that cracked me up at the end, he gets the way. What's funny is he beats all these guys who are supposed to be like good, right? Like he's beaten Cesaro and he's beaten Dolph Ziggler. Who else he beat? He won that Royal Rumble or whatever it was. Like you're having him beat these guys in a Saudi show that he would get squash matched
100%
any other time. And so he wins, and then he gets up there and does this motivational speech every single time. And I don't know if you noticed this. When I talked to our buddy Austin, he didn't really notice this. They had to keep cutting away from the crowd because every time they cut to the crowd, they got like their thumbs down.
They were booing him.
And they're booing him. And because they're like, we do not want to see this guy who only wrestles because it's us.
Yeah.
You know, like it almost is like, to me, that's a slap in the face to Saudi.
Exactly.
Like, hey, we're going to make a superhero for you guys, and we'll only let him win and fight when he's here.
Right. And it almost sounded like that they were overdubbing cheers because it's like you heard. It wasn't like this. If you go back and watch it, and who knows, WWE might have edited it at this point, but I was at least listening to some of it live because I was at work, or here at work, I should say. So I had it on in the background, but I was listening to it, if not watching some of it here and there. But it sounded like you had the live crowd booing, but then you heard cheering, but it wasn't like it was on the same. I don't know how I'm trying to phrase this.
Timing or
Well, not time. I mean, it sounded like they were coming from the sound was coming from different sources, and I'm wondering if they were trying to overdub cheers like they did back in the day. Royal Rumble '92. This kind of a quick little history thing. This was around the time Hogan started losing his popularity, and people were not only booing Hogan, but they were cheering Sid Justice, who was Sid Vicious, whoever, whatever. If you watch WWF or WCW, he went by both those names. So WWE has had a track record of doing that sort of thing. So I don't know if I was just hearing things, or take it for what it's worth. But he was definitely getting boosts from the live crowd.
Just advice, like put him on NXT or something. At least give him, like, if you know a Saudi show's coming up, give him a run of wins somewhere. Even if it's NXT, like let him beat guys like Austin Theory or whatever. Like let him get some wins, so at least it makes sense that he's winning a match. But to bring him in every 4 months, 5 months when they have a Saudi show and say, hey, you're gonna win over Dolph Ziggler or Cesaro or whoever else. I would have rather seen him win the Tuwaiq Trophy and at least say it made sense.
Exactly.
Like, none of this stuff made sense to me.
Well, and what makes it even worse is that his last 2 or 3 moves of the match, I know he did it like this weird sliced bread move that looked like it was botched, and then he definitely botched his moonsault at the end because his knees caught Ziggler in the stomach, and then you had Corey Graves trying to sell it as if, he meant to do it and that caused more damage or whatever. It's like, no, that's not how a moonsault works. You don't purposely do a moonsault to drive your knees into a guy's sternum, but it was what it was. As as was this whole card. Then we have the last 3 matches, which this just kept getting worse and worse. Ricochet and Lesnar. Ricochet got no offense in this match. He tried to go for a drop kick, and then Ricochet just does a suplex on him. I think he did like 3 German suplexes and then F5, and then that was it. It was literally a squash match.
So I had hope for this match at first because I had read a rumor that said Paul Heyman really wanted Ricochet to actually win this match.
Right.
Backstage and was fighting hard for it. So I thought, no way is that going to happen, right? Because I know what the plans are for Mania. But I would have at least expected to see things that they've done in the past with like Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles, where
it was a competitive
he at least
match.
Gets a couple spots to look like he's a contender. Now, if they don't bounce him back by putting him in the chamber, in a chamber match, or putting him in running for the mid-card belt at least, I was telling Austin, I really think WrestleMania should have him, Aleister Black, Andrade, and Carrillo in a 4-way for the United States Championship. If they don't do that, if they don't put him in something prominent, he's either going to, 1, leave the company when his contract is up, or 2, he's going to lose so much steam that you're going to lose one of the most talented wrestlers in the business right now.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I was going to say something else about that, kind of going along with what you're talking about, and I totally forgot. But you know what? It's not even worth it. It's not even worth the time to try to remember what I was going to say. Then we have the cage match, Roman Reigns and King Corbin.
Thank God that's over.
They end the feud. Agreed. Roman Reigns gets the win. And then, there was 4 matches left. So we had the Naomi Bayley match. Of course, predictable. Bayley gets the win. And then you have the atrocity that was the Universal title match, Goldberg against The Fiend. If you haven't heard by now, spoiler alert, Goldberg is the new Universal Champion. He literally beats The Fiend in what was maybe a 5-minute match, if that. So you've got this guy in The Fiend that has been unbeatable, unhurtable almost. You've got previous matches with Seth Rollins where he's piling tables and chairs and hitting him with sledgehammers with the tables and chairs on top of him, and he still can't get the pinfall, but yet Goldberg hits a couple of spears and the jackhammer on him and gets the win. This makes 0 sense from a creative standpoint. Now, again, I get it from the money side of things. Saudi wants to see a new champion crowned, and they want to see Goldberg get it because he's the name. It's like Saudi Arabia is 20 years behind in the world of wrestling because they want these guys that are well past their prime, if not should be retired. They want these guys to come out and be the show. And again, I get it from the money standpoint. I get it that Goldberg is, whenever they have him on SmackDown, that the ratings are higher. I don't know how much I buy into the fact that the ratings are higher because of Goldberg. I'm not saying it is or isn't related. I don't know. I don't buy it. If you go on social media, most of the fans don't buy it. So something doesn't add up here. Now, I also get it slightly from a creative standpoint that you take the belt off the Fiend because he doesn't really need the belt. But this just feels like, and I said it whenever I did that impromptu show last week, and I'll say it again. This almost feels like the worst creative decision that WWE's had in the last 20 years, if not ever. And Thomas makes a good point. The jackhammer at the end was botched. It wasn't even a good jackhammer. It was a suplex. By the way, guys, if you're still hanging with us, I appreciate it. We're going to be done talking WWE shortly. We're just kind of recapping some things. We're going to talk about Gateway to Honor a little bit, and then we're going to talk about AEW Revolution as well. So if you're sitting with us through what was an awful Super Showdown, thanks for staying with us. I appreciate it. But ultimately, this entire event sets up matches for Mania. You're going to have, and this is what slightly surprised me because I had read everything after this event was over that you still had guys like Meltzer that said that there's going to be Goldberg and Reigns and Cena and the Fiend, which it ended up being that. But I was seeing other things that WWE was reporting that, but they were thinking internally of pulling a swerve and having Goldberg against Cena for the belt and the Fiend against Reigns, with the added future swerve of putting the belt back on the Fiend if they wanted to. If they wanted to put Fiend in the title picture with Reigns, or if they wanted to keep it on Goldberg to keep their options open. If they would have done that, and I suppose they still could do that. They could still put the belt back on the Fiend and have him go against Cena and then have Reigns against Goldberg. I guess they could keep their options open with that, but ultimately, I've never not been less excited about a WrestleMania, I don't think, at least for a very long time. I mean, if I don't watch this year's WrestleMania, I will not lose a bit of sleep over it.
Here's my thing. I get it. I knew Goldberg was going to win even before it got spoiled for me. I knew Goldberg was going to win prior to, and here's why. They want the belt on Roman Reigns. We all know that. We all know they want the belt on Roman Reigns. They want him to have a run with the belt. How do you get the belt off the Fiend and onto Reigns? Because my thing is this. The Fiend is over. All right, so there's no way you're putting Roman Reigns up against the Fiend and saying, hey, people are going to cheer for Reigns. It's not going to happen. They're going to all side with the Fiend. It's going to happen that way. I don't know if you watch SmackDown or not. They were booing Goldberg like crazy on SmackDown, and he was starting to kind of take on a heel role, and I like it. I don't know. I get that everyone's mad that the Fiend lost the belt, but we've had this conversation 1,000 times. Who beats the Fiend? Who gets to go over on the Fiend? Who gets to take the belt off? Because there's really, with the way that Bray Wyatt has built that character, there really isn't a guy that should get that deserving thing. So, although I didn't like that it was a squash match, I would have liked to seen it go longer. Like I said, we could have probably canceled a couple matches to get that match to be a little longer along with the Ricochet match. I get the booking. It sets up Goldberg to get booed, and it sets up Reigns. Reigns still didn't get the pop that I think they wanted.
I still think they're both going to get booed. I think it's going to be a repeat of the Goldberg-Lesnar match from Mania back. It's like WrestleMania 20. I think they're both going to get booed. I think it's just, especially if it's the last match on the WrestleMania card, I think that it's just going to be Goldberg is. I think is going to get more boos. I think Reigns will be. I'll phrase it this way. I think Reigns is going to be more of a split crowd, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to be the reaction that WWE wants.
No, but here's the great news. The great news is once you get the belt on Reigns, you start to build towards that Reigns Fiend match that we should have probably gotten at Mania. Like, again, they're just wanting to build the card. I think the John Cena Fiend match is a good match. I like it. I think it's going to be good. Would have liked to see it for the title, but it sets up for
Abby agrees with you, by the way.
future things. It opens the door because the Fiend, you have him win too much. There's never going to be a guy who beats him. There's never going to be a guy that's like, okay, that is the guy that should go over on the Fiend. So I like that they took the belt off of him now. Let's get a couple months without it, and then let's go back to it. Let's revisit it in a new way. Let's have him be the one that defeats Reigns, or because Reigns will be booked the same way. Who's going to beat Reigns? Who's going to be the guy that takes the win over him?
So 2 thoughts. Now, going back to the WrestleMania card, I mentioned that I've never been less excited about a WrestleMania card. So Dave Meltzer said that they're actually treating this WrestleMania as like another day at the office, and that next year's WrestleMania in Los Angeles is going to be like the WrestleMania of all WrestleManias. Like, they're really building that one to be huge. And if that's the case, I mean, it definitely makes sense with the card that they're putting together. It also makes sense from the standpoint that, so with this coronavirus stuff, they're supposedly keeping their options open, that if they even need to go to drastic measures to reschedule or even cancel it altogether, like if it really, and I don't see them doing that, but I think that maybe they're purposefully not building this WrestleMania to be super huge as it has been, or at least as how it is felt in years past, for reasons of, again, the coronavirus stuff, as well as they want next year's WrestleMania to be huge. If that's the route they're going, I apologize, I'm stumbling over words today. If that's the route that they're going, then I get it. Now, back to the Fiend's character. If you're WWE, you know that fans are, or can be, forgiving and forgetful. I just have a hard time fans on a large scale forgetting, oh, well, this absolute destructive of a monster lost to Goldberg in 5 minutes after 2 or 3 spears and a botched jackhammer. I just hope that they don't have to go back and repackage this guy again.
I don't think so.
In 6 months, because people aren't believing it anymore. Now, time will tell. It'll show that if his merch sales go down, then obviously fans aren't going to buy into it anymore.
I'll say this: that he got a pop when he came out on Cena last night, on SmackDown. I read that he's supposed to take the win over Cena at Mania to build back some.
Better.
Some momentum.
If Cena gets this win, and assuming that Goldberg keeps the Universal title,
he won't.
Well, I meant assuming Goldberg keeps the Universal title up till Mania,
right?
Like, assuming they don't put it back on the Fiend. I'm going to read Abby's comment real quick, and that's going to tie into what I was going to say. She thinks the Fiend should have lost the belt to Cena at Mania. Cena breaks the belt record, and Fiend goes back to destroying everyone like normal. That, I don't want to say I agree with that comment, but that's creatively what makes the most sense. Before Super Showdown, that's what made the most sense. That's the only way I'd want Cena to get the win, is to break break the record if WWE wants to do that. Whatever. Now, what would make the most sense going past that is to maybe not even putting the belt back on the Fiend, but Cena not keeping the belt for an extended amount of time, especially if he's going to be like a part-time Lesnar type figure or personality, whatever. And again, we could go back and forth all day talking about scenarios and everything, but ultimately, I hope that they don't have to repackage the Fiend. I agree that he got a good reaction on SmackDown, and if
Now, the bad rumor that's out there right now is that John Cena wants to take the win at Mania and then set up a match for Extreme Rules where he loses. He thinks creatively it doesn't make sense for him to come, which he's not wrong. I do understand this mindset. It doesn't make sense to keep bringing John Cena back as enhancement talent because he loses the luster of being John Cena then. And not many legends like him come back and take the L every time they come back.
Okay, so let's go down that road real quick, and then we'll transition off WWE. Let's say you do have Cena over the Fiend at WrestleMania. That means the Fiend will take 2 straight losses on a pay-per-view in which he's wrestled, because I don't think he's going to be on Elimination Chamber.
If he is, it'll be like
it'll just be an appearance. It won't be a wrestling match. I wouldn't think. So that means you'd have the Fiend on 2 straight cards in which he's wrestled take a loss. I think he's going to have a hard time recovering character-wise. I hope I'm wrong from this Goldberg loss, but if he takes a loss to Cena as well at WrestleMania, I mean,
clean, you mean, or just in general?
In any way, shape, or form. I mean, even if it's just like if it takes, Cena, burying him under a forklift and he can't get his shoulder up or something like that. I don't know.
I see both sides. I definitely see the side where Bray, the Fiend can't take too many losses before it all goes stale. But at the same time, I definitely agree with the mindset. And these are all just rumors too. But, John Cena coming back and not really having any kind of momentum built other than the fact that he's John Cena, to come back and then take the L to the Fiend. And, every time he comes back, he's taking L's right now. And so I kind of understand the mindset of having him win, but they should have brought him back earlier then. He should have probably been on this card, taken a win, been on the Elimination Chamber card, taken a win, and then fought at Mania and taken an L.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to transition off WWE and talk about Ring of Honor's show that was here in St. Louis Saturday night. Before we do that, I want to mention, if you haven't noticed, or notice isn't the right word, if you haven't read, I should say, Matt Hardy has given somewhat of an update on his contract situation, so he has let his WWE contract run out. However, he's not closed the door on returning to WWE. He specifically mentions Raw and SmackDown and Dynamite, AEW Dark, NWA, Impact on his show that he did. So he's essentially he's essentially saying he's leaving all the doors open. Now, conveniently enough, not too long after he released this video last night / early this morning, depending on where you're at, it was released at midnight Eastern time, 11 o'clock my time. There was a tweet that went out from AEW shortly after this video was released saying the Exalted One is near. Take it for what you will. It could just be a big tease. It could just be playing into what they have been playing into for weeks and weeks. We'll see. Time will tell. Hey, William, how's it going, man? So let's talk about Ring of Honor a little bit. We don't talk about Ring of Honor a whole lot. I would have actually gone to this show. So again, this was a local show called Gateway to Honor here in St. Louis. Is technically St. Peters, Missouri, but it's like a little, just a quick shot north of St. Louis. I've not gotten details as far as if the or if the event was good or not. Most Ring of Honor shows are fun to go to live and have been for a number of years. The thing I wanted to mention specifically was they actually had a title change. So they had Rush defeat PCO for the Ring of Honor World Championship. I think it's really cool that the St. Louis area, if you go back in history, has a very big track record of having not just title changes, but world title changes, whether it's, back in the territory days, NWA title changes. Excuse me. WCW title changes, WWF/WWE title changes. Whenever Daniel Bryan won it over AJ Styles, a couple years ago, that was here in St. Louis. But it kind of makes me wonder if they did this title change because of all the backlash of Goldberg winning the title, because PCO is in his own right very up there in age. In fact, let me look and see how old he is. I know he's in his 50s.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
He is 52. So I don't know. It's kind of speculation, but there was I don't remember if it was Twitter or Instagram where I saw this, or maybe it was Facebook. But at one point, it was saying something along the lines that Nick Aldis, the NWA heavyweight champion, currently was at one point. This was, I want to say this was on Friday. It said that he was the only world heavyweight champion in a major the only male world heavyweight champion in a major promotion that was under the age of 40 or something like that. Now that's if you're not including Adam Cole. That's obviously if you're not factoring in Tessa Blanchard, who is the Impact World Champion, but obviously he's not a male. So I know Ring of Honor is very proactive when it comes to listening to fans, getting the reaction of the overall wrestling community at large, so to speak. So it kind of makes me wonder if this was something that was booked creatively ahead of time, if they knew they were going to do that title change here in St. Louis, if they were like, well, we might want to put the title back on Rush just as a measure of, we don't want our heavyweight champion to be 52 years old, essentially. Or they could have done it knowing they were running up against AEW Revolution, which we will talk about here shortly. As far as the rest of the card goes, Dragon Lee, who is the Ring of Honor television champion, defeated Dak Draper. If you've not watched Dragon Lee, you owe it to yourself to watch some of his matches. That guy is intense in the ring. He also goes by Ryu Lee in New Japan. By the way, shout out to New Japan Wrestling with my new shirt that I got yesterday. Let's see. John Gresham and Jay Lethal defeated Ray Horus and Bandito. Dalton Castle defeated Kenny King, Jeff Cobb, and Tracy Williams. Jeff Cobb obviously still wrestling for Ring of Honor. Villain Enterprises, which consists of Marty Scurll, Brody King, and Flip Gordon, defeated Slex and the Briscoe Brothers. Vincent Bateman defeated Silas Young and Josh Woods. By the way, guys, I'll be 100% honest. I don't know who some of these guys are. I just lost my page. Dan Maff defeated Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley has taken a lot of losses.
I don't understand that one.
I don't either. I don't either. And then Angelina Love defeated Moth Martina. So, again, I would have looked forward to go to that if I did not go to AEW Revolution. But tell you what, before we go into AEW Revolution, I'm going to do my little read thing real quick.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
And I did mean to press at that time. If you joined us earlier in the show or if you've been with us the whole time, I accidentally pressed that button whenever I went into our intro, but it is what it is. So you can check out the Going Broadway podcast with new shows every week on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, as well as a number of other platforms where you can access your podcasting. For those of you watching us live right now, each show is archived, and you can go back and watch any one of them on Facebook or via our YouTube channel as well. Go to goingbroadwaypodcast.com/YouTube and check us out there. Please also download our free app. It's called Yo Radio. It can be downloaded through the App Store or Google Play. Yo Radio is the most user-driven and advanced streaming radio service on the market today. Everything you'd expect and more from the most full-featured platforms ever developed. Listen to an endless genre of music, podcasts, including our show via the Lineup channel, sports news, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and always 100% free. Again, that's Yo Radio, available via the App Store, Google Play, or by visiting yoradio.com. You can also check out our podcast through our web host at lineupmedia.fm. William says Goldberg is the oldest WWE champion. I think that's a true statement. I'm trying to think. I'll take your word for it. And real quick about our giveaways. So I think we need about 160, 170 more likes on our Facebook page so we can do our belt giveaway. So we appreciate the support and the listenership and the viewership. Just help us get to that 1,000 likes mark so we can give that belt away. All right. Let's talk AEW Revolution. Like I said, I was there live. This was a blast. This was the second AEW show I've been to live, and it exceeded expectations. I was actually second row from the ring. I don't know. It was a lot of fun, not just from the experience standpoint, but the matches were also good. Cole, what were your thoughts overall?
I liked it. I went back and watched it. I got a friend who she assumes that I try to watch it as soon as it hits and all those things. So not only did she text me about the Goldberg win before I got to watch it, she also texted me about the Moxley win as well. So yesterday she told me about the Moxley win and I hadn't watched it yet. So both of the main title matches on each pay-per-view were oh, this person won, and I was like, oh no.
I think you just need to shut off your phone whenever you're not able to watch it.
Well, I saw her in person yesterday, and she was like, oh, can you believe this? And I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Let me give you a hug so I don't get mad.
So I don't do something else. But yeah, I mean, start to finish, even the pre-show, it was so much fun. And whether she admits it or not, I think my wife had fun. Now, I will say this: Cole and Austin, a buddy of ours, we went to Dynamite in Champaign, Illinois, back in December, and I don't think it was where we were sitting. I think it was just a different feel because it was a pay-per-view. It was so much louder at Revolution. I mean, so much louder to the point where even towards the end of the Orange Cassidy Pac match, I mean, it was just so loud. I'm like, I'm ready to leave. Revolution was very overly stimulating. Maybe that's not the right word. It was a lot from a noise and music standpoint. Now, what's really funny is, despite all that, I told my wife while we were there, it's the music that they have in between the matches and the vignettes and everything live, that music was louder than the wrestler's entrance music. So that's one thing that they could change, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it was still fun. I'm going to Dynamite here in St. Louis in April. I'm super stoked about that. But let's run down this card, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on each match. So SCU versus the Dark Order was a pre-show match. They actually had a pre-show. I won't give the spoilers on that because I think it's going to be on AEW Dark. But they had, what's her name? Well, so it's Penelope Ford and Britt Baker against Riho and I can't think of the other Japanese women's wrestler. I don't remember. But basically, I mean, even that match was pretty good. It's going to be a good AEW Dark type match. So I'm not going to give the spoilers away for that because I think that's going to be on this Tuesday or tomorrow, I should say. So I like that they started off with that because it had names in it. I mean, Penelope Ford, Riho, Britt Baker, obviously. So I think that was a good match to start out with, even though it wasn't a part of the card or it wasn't even announced. So good way to start off the show. And then you had SCU and Dark Order. Even though this match I felt was pretty good live, again, I don't know how any of this stuff came off on TV. I do want to actually go back and watch this entire event on TV just to see how it came across on TV. Live, this match was good, but I actually felt like this was probably the worst match of the night. And that's not a slight to them. That just shows that
the card was
that good. In my opinion. You guys that are watching us, share with us your opinion. If you agree, disagree, let us know what you thought about AEW Revolution. I was going to read something here and I've lost it. Oh, okay. I was going to get ahead of myself, so it's good I didn't read it. So the Dark Order gets the win. I wasn't surprised with the outcome. I thought the Dark Order would get the win. And this was, again, I don't know how this came across TV, but live, this got such a huge pop. So Colt Cabana comes out, who has since signed with AEW, and his music hits. The people lost their minds when he came out. I mean, it was like the instant his music hit. Just, I won't call it pop of the night, but it was up there. Colt Cabana comes out, he makes the save, and then Christopher Daniels comes out because at this point it's still Dark Order against Colt Cabana, Scorpio Sky, and Kazarian with this little schmoz beatdown thing. So Christopher Daniels comes out. You just see a guy coming out in this, draped cloth or whatever, and it looks like it's the this Exalted One or whatever. But he takes it off. It's Christopher Daniels, but then he runs out and it starts attacking the Dark Order, and then that ends that little schmoz or whatever. So, a good way to start off the actual announced card. And then you have, actually, what were your thoughts on that match?
I mean, I liked it. I thought the match was good, especially for like the buy-in match. So just to kind of kick things off, I liked it. I thought the Christopher Daniels coming out in the rope thing could have been done just a tad bit better. It was just kind of like we could have sold it a little bit better. Like he was with them and then not, then he attacks them.
I mean, they could have just had him run out and do without the whole cloth thing, because I don't necessarily think whenever you've got this on your pre-show or your buy-in show, whatever you want to call it, I don't think people are expecting to have the Exalted One revealed whenever they've plugged this storyline so immensely. I don't think anyone's going to expect it to be revealed on a pre-show. So I think they could have just done without the tease, and it still would have been fine.
Right, because obviously the Dark Order, they're like, who's this guy? Because it's definitely not the Exalted One.
What would have made the most sense, in my opinion, is just have Christopher Daniels be the first one to run out, and then it still looks like SCU is getting, Dark Order is getting the better of all three members of SCU. Then have Colt Cabana come out.
Yeah,
that would have made more sense, in my opinion. Especially since Colt Cabana is with AEW now. It's not like it was just a one-off appearance.
Right.
And who knows? At that point, it might have just been a one-off appearance until they worked.
Well, he's
out.
That's hometown for him, so it made sense for him to come out.
Yeah, and side note, what's really funny is, so I got to go to the actual Pro Wrestling Tees store yesterday, and that was kind of a nice little neat surprise because they're usually closed on Sundays. But what's really funny is that if you go in their store, it's Pro Wrestling Tees on one side, and then they've got 1 hour tees on the other. If you go in the side of Pro Wrestling Tees, and then you go towards the door that leads into 1 hour tees in the store, the sign on the door says for authorized staff and Colt Cabana only. It caught me off guard, but I just thought that was super hilarious because Colt Cabana is a big reason Pro Wrestling Tees got started and got their popularity and stuff like that. Or that's how it became popular with with the indie guys getting their merch out there, and then it's since been picked up by New Japan and AEW and such. So, the next match we had Jake Hager and Dustin Rhodes. I thought this was a great match, especially, since Dustin especially, but both of them are up there in age, but you wouldn't know it. It did not show. Kind of a neat way to play to the crowd with Hager and his wife in the crowd, which his wife was actually only sitting like maybe 10 feet from me, so that was kind of cool. It also kind of made it hard to figure out, like, I don't know. I'm sure it made sense on TV, but at first it was because I couldn't get a good view anytime that they were, doing anything or getting her involved. It kind of made it hard to figure out. Just 1 second here. Okay. Sorry, I just had to look at something real quick. So it made it hard to get a good dynamic of what they were trying to do with getting his wife involved. So again, I'm sure it made sense on TV. It just made it a little harder to see live. But nonetheless, I thought the match itself was good. And they definitely teased, at least on one occasion, that Dustin was actually going to win. Overall, I mean, Jake Hager gets the win. Rightfully so. I think he should, especially since it was his first match. And I mean, and it wasn't a clean win, so it doesn't hurt Dustin either because Hager got the low blow and then got the. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. The low blow was earlier in the match. So he did his little.
The low blow
was earlier in the match. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's what led to the standing arm triangle.
Yeah, his MMA move. So I thought the match was good. A good solid second match. First match on the main card, obviously. But I think Hager needs to lose his Vader bomb move. Like the splash off the second rope.
The gut wrench. Oh, you're talking about that.
The gut wrench is fine. I'm talking about the Vader bomb that you
used to do that in WWE too, the little Vader bomb thing, where he kind of runs, hits the second rope, second turnbuckle, and then pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
kind of like that he's kept pretty much his entire same move set from WWE.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if you could hear it on
the ankle lock.
I don't know if you could hear it on TV, but there's a bunch of "We the People" chants. So that was funny. So yeah, I thought it was a good match. It served its purpose for the card, and then we had Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. Let me ask you about this. Did it come off TV as good?
I mean, yeah, I think because of how good the card is, though, this match kind of gets, I think, kind of swept under the rug a little bit for what it was. This was a high energy match, in my opinion. Like I told you I was excited to see these two go at it because I felt like they complement each other very well. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was spotted right in the card too. I it wasn't the first match, but it was early. So I enjoyed that as well. And I'm glad that I got my pick right.
I don't remember who I picked for this.
You initially said Sammy, and
so I did switch. I did switch to Darby. There was a cool splash or a cool spot where he did this. I don't even know.
You're talking about the 630?
7 or 630 splash outside under the table. What sucks about that is that I was on the opposite side, so I couldn't see it. I didn't we just saw him come off the rope or the top rope, but we didn't see the actual splash. But you heard the reaction though. I mean, it was a cool spot. So I like how they structured this card as a whole as well, because next match they have the tag title match, which was in my opinion the match of the night, and I think this just speaks to, in my opinion, how good this match was, because I think this was match of the night and it's not even close. Hangman and Kenny against the Young Bucks. I was shocked at the result though.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that you almost felt like that they were kind of, I mean, so they're all faces going into the match, but you almost had a feel of, the fans are going to be behind the Young Bucks, and that, Kenny and Hangman were going to be not booed, but just the people would want to see the Young Bucks win the tag belts. But live, it was the exact opposite. I mean, people were behind Hangman and Kenny and were booing the Young Bucks. And I thought it was a very cool dynamic. What did you think of this match? Like, how did it come across on TV? Did you like it? Was it what you expected?
So first things first, why wouldn't this be match of the night?
Exactly.
When you think about the four guys who are in this match compared to the rest of the card, if they didn't put on, especially for a pay-per-view, if they did not put on the match that they put on, we would have been disappointed. So I'm glad that it was a very good match. I like that they're getting Kenny Omega kind of involved in this little debacle between Hangman and the Elite. You know, I kind of like that. You know, now the Young Bucks are kind of getting mad at Kenny. You know, like they're like, what, you know, what's going on? Like, you know, kind of getting intense with him. And then I like that they teased like Matt Jackson kind of getting over aggressive and having to be calmed down, you know, because Kenny's their friend.
Yeah,
and
they did that with Matt and Nick too, to some degree. I mean, the entire dynamic of this match, from the in-ring work itself to the in-ring psychology, I thought it was fantastic.
I also like that Paige hit the one Winged Angel.
That was fun.
For Omega, but the only part about that kind of weirded me out is that that almost plays opposite of the build-up of him having a heel turn. Or
I thought it does the exact opposite. I thought it plays into the fact that, okay, well, if Hangman's going to turn heel on Kenny, I think he's just going to say, well, you can do this move, but I can do it better.
Or I guess I could see that as well. It more felt like he was stepping up for the team because Omega was hurt with the shoulder than it was, let me show you what I can do.
No, I agree, and I can see that perspective also. I'm just saying that's the route that they could go.
Definitely, most definitely. I liked the match. I was completely shocked. I told you, like, I thought for sure this was going to be where Hangman turns.
And they teased it at the end. This was what made it so much better, is that it looked like he was going to do his buckshot lariat on Kenny at the end of the match. And what's funny is that live, like as soon as Hangman was on the outside and Kenny was in the ring, I saw him doing this, and I'm like freaking out because it's going to happen. It's like no one else was seeing it. I was like, does anyone else not notice he's about ready to do it? Then finally the crowd catches on, and I think that's why, maybe, I don't know how it came across on TV, but it seemed like he was like gearing up for a while, and I don't know if he was just waiting for the crowd to react, but it seemed like that was kind of dragging out. But I mean, it still didn't really hurt it. It just felt like Kenny was supposed to turn around sooner, or maybe they were playing to the crowd. I don't know, but a fun little tease. I actually like the decision of continuing to build it. I think they can build it towards their next pay-per-view. I was skeptical whenever we did our last show that they weren't going to, but you know what? Let them do it. I mean,
it could be a slow build. I mean, you're talking about breaking up something as big as the Elite, or having, you know, kind of strife in between it. So it definitely could be a slow build. I just felt like they were building it faster than that. But
yeah,
it was a swerve. It was definitely a shocking, one of the very few I got wrong, swerve.
Yeah, and it makes it interesting to watch Being the Elite whenever, I'm assuming it's going to be released today. I don't know if it's going to include their behind the scenes stuff at Revolution or not. I mean, it's usually released on Mondays. I also don't know if they delay the release it whenever they do special events like that, but nonetheless, hopefully it gets released today. We'll see. Next, we have the AEW Women's Title match: Nyla Rose and Chris Statlander.
I'm sure you love this.
I take back what I said. I think this was the worst match of the night. Only because Chris Statlander actually botched. Again, I don't know if you noticed on TV, there was 3 or 4 different spots where she botched. Now, one of them was, little kip up thing, so it wasn't a move. It was just, she's trying to kip up, but then didn't get her footing, and whatever. But live, the match served its purpose. They teased, at least on one occasion, that Statlander was actually going to win. Inevitably, Nyla Rose does get the win. She keeps the title. I don't think it hurts either one of them. I mean, Nyla Rose obviously doesn't hurt because she gets the win, but Chris Statlander, I don't think it hurts her either. She took a nasty powerbomb spot at the end, but this was one of the botches because it almost like they really saved this because. So I'm trying to remember. So they were both on the turnbuckle,
and the superplex that was supposed to happen.
Let me just read. Let's see. Okay, so they don't really detail it. I just remember they were on the top rope, and Statlander was gonna go for like a, I don't know if it was a Huracan Rana or something, but Nyla Rose catches her, but has trouble lifting her up. And finally, whenever they go off the top rope, she hasn't had her lifted up all the way, but she like basically jumps off while she's lifting her up the rest of the way, and it just looked, that could have been bad. I mean, it was a miracle that Chris Statlander didn't land awkwardly on her neck. I mean, it looked nasty live, but you could tell it was, no one got seriously hurt. At least it didn't look like that. I mean, they both walked away. But Nyla Rose gets the win. And the spot at the end couldn't have looked better, even though it was botched, because it was a sick-looking powerbomb off the rope. So, excuse me. So we have Cody and MJF. They had some cool, I don't want to call them spots, but I mean, that's essentially what they were. They had some cool spots in this match where, you had Arn Anderson take a foot to the face. Again, I think they're inevitably building toward Arn Anderson turning on Cody. I like that a lot of their storylines, they're doing this build. Like they're building it, and not to get ahead of myself, but after all this, it kind of made the world title match result kind of surprising because they're doing the slower build now with Hangman. They're doing the slower build with what I think is going to be, an Arn Anderson heel turn. So it almost felt like that they were going to continue to build on Jericho as champion. Not to get ahead of myself, but the crowd popped for whenever Brandy threw the beer in Wardlow's face, and at this point the crowd was just into it. I mean, you had the last 3 matches of the night, so they were ready for this match, myself included. I think MJF got busted open the hard way off a kick from Cody. I thought he just bladed, but towards the end of the match, you could see this gash on one side of the nose. I don't remember, but it was definitely, he definitely got busted open the hard way. And by this point, Cody had his boot taken off, so I don't know if it was just a stiff kick or if it was like an ankle bone that caught him. But it just added to the match. So MJF's bleeding. Crowd is into it. They're chanting "Let's go Cody" chants, and there was dual chants, "Let's go Cody, MJF sucks" or whatever. And then they had they were teasing the near falls, and then at the end, MJF gets the win. Let's see. I don't remember how this ended.
It was with the ring punch. He has the dynamite ring on that he won. And he punched Cody with it.
So you just put on his ring and punched him? Why don't I remember this?
Yeah.
I think by this point I was just ready for the Orange Cassidy and Pac match. I think at this point I was kind of just blanking out.
I would say that because I had picked Cody to win this match because of all the things he went through. It's a good point that it's a slow build. This is the way MJF needed to win this match. It definitely couldn't have been a clean win.
No.
The fact that he wins this dirty. So Cody had to go through all that stuff just to lose by cheating. Just keeps this storyline alive, and gives it more juice. I just don't know. I would like to see where they're going to take it. Because Cody's gone through so much. We're going to have a whole nother stint of stipulations to get another rematch. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting to see. But a good match overall. I think MJF definitely pulled his weight in this one.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. I mean, MJF...
We like to talk about his mic skills and his overall just heel ability. But this was a match that I felt like he held his own in the ring.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, he's a good in-ring worker too. I mean, I think he is very much the equivalent of what Tully Blanchard was back in the day. He could talk on the mic. He's good in the ring. And fans absolutely hate him. Absolutely despise him. So, all right, let's do these last two matches, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Pac and Orange Cassidy. At this point, I mean, so they both come out, and this is before the match even starts. The bell hasn't even rang yet, and the crowd is doing their holy bleep chants, and it's like, I don't remember that ever happening where that chant starts before a match has even started. I mean, at this point, and I love the placement of this match on this card. I love that it was the next to last match. I think they booked that right, that they had the tag title match before this, the women's title match before this, even the Cody and MJF match before this. I think they did the right thing by putting this match the next to last on the card. Crowd was into it the entire time. I mean, they even teased a couple of times where you thought Orange Cassidy was actually going to get the win. I really hope that people that essentially crap on this character, that they can actually get it now that Orange Cassidy is good in the ring. I mean, he is very skilled. Like, it's not just a sloth character. I mean, it's that, but I mean, that's part of it. I think AEW pulled the trigger at the right time to put him in a match. I think the timing of everything with this character was pinpoint spot on. The match itself I thought was pretty good. Any match with Pac is going to be good, but you had a couple of times where This Is Wrestling chant was going in the crowd, and I don't think it hurt. Obviously, it didn't hurt Pac because he got the win. I don't think it hurt Orange Cassidy because it wasn't a 100% clean win. You had Lucha Bros come out, get the distraction on Trent and Chuck, but they kind of both kept each other from interfering in the match. But Orange Cassidy was distracted. Pac grabs him in his brutalizer and gets the immediate tap out for the win. And I mean, I just thought it was a good match. The only constructive criticism I have about this match is that I thought it actually could have gone longer.
Yeah, I mean, this match is good because it builds Pac back up. You know, we talked about this, that Pac's taken a lot of losses in big matches. So I like this because it gets Pac the win. You know, he wins by submission at that, so he didn't get a pinfall. He got a submission.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could kind of tie into the fact that Orange Cassidy was basically asleep when they called the match. So you could almost say that he never got pinned.
Right.
So this is a storyline that you could take beyond Revolution if you want to. Cassidy probably gets one of the biggest pops in wrestling right now when he comes out.
100%. Absolutely.
So this is good from a crowd standpoint. My only thing is you can't have him take L after L after L either. So
100%.
As you build him as a singles wrestler, as you allow him to fight matches, you got to start putting him with people who are able to take the L against him. If it's lesser names, whatever the case it may be, you know, whether he fights Joey Janela or Kip Sabian or, you know, somebody who's not in a place to be taking win after win after win right now. I think that's where they need to go with him. But I liked the match. It was cool to see almost a full move set from Cassidy.
Agreed. And then the last match, you've got Moxley and Jericho. I think the match was what everyone expected it to be. You know, it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a 5-star match, but, you know, the match served its purpose. It had the spots you would expect. It had the near falls. It had the teases. It had Santana and Ortiz. Ortiz especially. Actually, just one second. Is it Ortiz? Hang on. I get these two mixed up. I just want to make sure that it's... I don't know why I get these guys mixed up.
Santana, I think, is the shorter one with the hair. I get them mixed up too.
Or the bearded one with the beard is Ortiz. Yeah, so I was right. But Santana and Ortiz especially, like, playing to the crowd, and what's funny, I'm sure that they didn't put this on TV, is so Ortiz had a hat on, and someone in the crowd was like, "Throw me your hat. Can I have your hat?" And Ortiz was kind of like friendly bantering with him, and I think the guy that he was talking with spoke Spanish too, and it wasn't anything unpleasant. I think it was just friendly, go back and forth, and finally Ortiz was like, I can't just give you my hat. I'm supposed to be a heel." It was really funny. It got a good reaction from the crowd. So you had everyone do their spots, everyone come out, and you had Jake Hager come out and get the distraction. Sammy Guevara hit him with the belt, but he still kicked out. And Moxley makes his comeback, hits a couple of paradigm shifts on Jericho, gets the pinfall, new AEW champion. And here's what I was going to ask you. So Moxley did a speech to end the show. Was that still part of the show? Like, was that still on TV?
I didn't watch the actual pay-per-view, so I watched it by like YouTube match by match. So I'm not sure. I don't think I even continued to watch the video if it was even on that video.
Okay.
I just watched the matches themselves.
Gotcha.
Solely. So I think my opinion on this is it's the right move. I like Jon Moxley as a champion. I don't think you can build him the way that you have and then have him take a loss in that big of a match.
Unless it was not a clean win.
Right, which he overcame a lot to do that. But something I read, and I really agree with this, if you've enjoyed Jericho as champion and the whole Le Champion, a little bit of the bubbly gimmicks and things that they've done, I actually am excited to see, and this was something I read, think about the journey of him getting back to the title picture. So think about what that's going to look like and all the different promos and things that we're going to see. I think you're about to see a lot more entertaining promos and stuff from Jericho now that the belt's not on him. I think you're going to see the Inner Circle really explode beyond Jericho as far as the other guys in the group. You saw Hager take a win. Guevara took a loss. That's fine. Ortiz and Santana, they kind of stay in the title picture and kind of stay as a prominent tag team kind of duo. So I think you're going to see the Inner Circle take a lot of avenues to kind of be that team in AEW right now, or that faction, while Jericho doesn't have the belt. So that's exciting for me. I think you're also going to get to see some dream matches where the belt's not on the line with Jericho versus some of these guys, to where they can do it without saying, "Oh, the belt's on the line," or if they win, now they should get a shot. Now it's like, okay, we can do Jericho versus whoever.
Yeah. Well, something I thought about during the event, and I've later read other things that have possibly confirmed this, but the thing that went through my mind is, well, I wonder if he lost the belt because maybe he's got a tour with Fozzy coming up. And then sure enough, I pulled something up yesterday that basically said, so his touring schedule begins in April. So it goes through April and May, which means he might not even be on AEW TV.
Other than maybe cutting promos that are video or
he'll probably record like
via
vignettes.
satellite.
He'll probably record vignettes and things like that. But nonetheless, I think AEW at this point, they can survive without Jericho for,
well, the
X
next
amount of
pay-per-view is
time.
May, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the perfect time for him to interrupt whatever Moxley match is going on, to set up a rematch for them, or a new storyline for them for the next months to come until the next pay-per-view.
Exactly. So, guys, I think that's going to about conclude our show for today. We will be back Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll probably recap some of Raw. We'll recap some of NXT. We'll recap some of Dynamite. But I'd really like to get in the habit of actually discussing certain topics. So, like I've mentioned previously, shoot us some private messages, comment on our video today or previous videos. Just leave us a post in our group. Any potential topics you'd like to discuss. I think Tim Purnell, he asked best finishing move in WWE today. That might not be a bad quick topic that we could discuss. Who's got some of the more dynamic finishing moves in wrestling today. Even the topic of finishing moves, period. You know, how some of them are not really protected anymore. Some of them are. I mean, I would say just by default, because it's been so protected, my favorite finisher is probably the one-winged angel. I mean, you've only had one person that I know of that's ever kicked out of it, and that's Kota Ibushi, but that's been years and years ago. But I'm kind of partial because I still think Kenny Omega is probably my favorite wrestler as well. So I'm not really biased, or I should say I am biased. But again, give us some topic suggestions. I'm interested to see what you guys might suggest. In the meantime, Cole, any final thoughts?
Just excited to see what's going to transpire as we, Elimination Chamber is literally a week, coming right up.
No kidding. I messaged Cole and Austin yesterday. I was like, well, who's hosting Elimination Chamber? I mean, it's already, my wife and I, we've got one of those dry erase board calendars, so we are just kind of getting our dates down for March, and I'm just like, oh, there's another event this Sunday.
So I'm excited to see what happens with that as we enter into WrestleMania. Like, we're in WrestleMania season, but the last pay-per-view before the big one.
The go-home pay-per-view.
And then like to see where AEW takes things now that Revolution's over. We don't have a big pay-per-view coming up for a couple months. Like, what's going to transpire? What's the fallout look out? Where do storylines go from here? So
agreed. I'm intrigued with AEW as far as what they're going to do. I really want to be purposeful as trying to watch more Ring of Honor and more NWA, because I'm sure people are probably maybe bored to some degree with just WWE and AEW every week. So, guys, if you're watching, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us. If you've been with us through the whole show, I'm going to try to, like I said, be more purposeful as far as watching more of the product out there, so we have more to talk about. I know there are some weeks I just, WWE and AEW I don't even get to watch, but I'll try to make more time to do that. No promises, but again, I'm going to try. So just what Trent said last week. He's going to try. So
he's going to try.
He's actually going to try. So thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you back here Thursday morning.
And so, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang!
This podcast was a presentation of LightUpMedia.fm.